this catching. Mm-hmm. Okay, and let's see if I possibly have to pick up the feet a bit more. Touch that. Okay, and I can close this outright and actually get to work. And feel free to pop in the chat or send Facebook messages on the announcement on the Peter's the Wolf Facebook if you want me to reply to something. But as you can see, I'm finally on to 178A. It's been taking me forever, I know, you guys. Various difficulties. Just life. Damn, life getting in the way like you wouldn't believe. Minimize that, right. First thing I should do is open up a text folder and start feeding all of these in. Something I didn't start doing until the most recent pages. I had it mentioned on my Fur Affinity or anywhere else, or I posted images there to announce that I was doing this, because pictures always get a little more interest than posting a journal post. But I've also got a Picarto account now, so when I edit adults only pages, like adults only page 177, which I just finished, I'll be I'll edit them, live stream, edit them on the Picarto instead of with the with the expected live stream, because they don't want you bringing on naughty bits on there, I don't think. Because the nature of those, so I won't edit. Oh, that's fine. Okay, this mystery layer, layer 2, what the hell is it? Oh, okay, I see. Yeah, I can remove that. Because now I know how to do this with a stroke tool. And therefore, I be stroking. That's what I be doing. Gonna shut those up there. You can see how little this show I actually finished. This is why I'm like, I don't know, I think it was around this chapter where, was it during this chapter that I was both trying to complete book 1 and I was unemployed at the time too, so I was kind of, and now I was going to have my cousin Trevor, who's a gamer and all sorts of stuff. I was going to have him helping me out on some White Lightning Productions projects, including helping with Peter's the Wolf to a degree, cleaning up pages and whatnot. The ones that didn't need that mention anything, but he got bogged down first. Well, first he was unemployed, so I was gonna, I'm gonna have my cousin help me out with the work. But then he got his job back, but now he's even just quitting that and just moving because he's about to go into the VA for a hernia, and he's also, they just said, yeah, you're clinically depressed, which is well, a lot of artistic types now that I think about it. Howard Taylor talks about his depression. I think James Desborough in England was just mentions his. So yeah, that explains a lot. Probably me, who knows. Though I think I'm more likely for a hyperactivity disorder of some sort, or maybe I was just ADHD and misdiagnosed Asperger's or something. Who knows? But like, I'd claim that status. Although I think every XY chromosome nowadays is being labeled as some disorder, and I know we're just guys. Chris is looking and on his end of getting me some help to help edit these pages, get them ready and cleaned up for the book finally as well. And on his end, I'm not sure what the status is there. And have you noticed a lot of my pages now, like especially in the latest string of pages, I stopped doing a lot of the, I'm going to add in a bunch of those, shading and stuff. And the reason I had enough time to do it yesterday on that one, I felt, on the latest page of the Peter's the Wolf, but I'm like, I might go back and edit I might go back and draw a bunch of little things in there. This is all way black, right? Yeah. I'm keeping more and more of this open and doing more and more hand shading for that fact, for the notion that, okay, wait a minute, some of these pages I'm really looking towards going back and filling in even more or refinishing so they look even better. See, look at that. That's going to look horrible when it goes to print. Let me just clean up this. Also with these, I didn't know the adjustment tools, the brightness and contrast adjustment tools, when I had first started, when I was doing a lot of this book 1 and book 2. This whole thing has been a learning process in Photoshops for me. And it was only recent in the last couple of years that I learned, I just slide this over, and then I got a true black instead of what you see here, all these gray little scuzzies that look horrible. But so, yeah, my cousin is dealing with stuff. Sigh. I kind of just scuttled his artistic endeavors, and he was actually working really long hours in a mall shop, but I'm not sure if I've mentioned Trevor before, but he had an interesting job at a print shop in a mall in Flint, Michigan. So it might not just be, because like I said, he's moving. He's going to the VA. He's moving clear up the state, up north to Port Huron, where he's going to have some friends. He's going to live with them for a while as he gets himself back together and looks for work probably up there. He was down in Flint because that was where he was going to school for graphic design. He got his graphic design degree, or his education there, and the first job he really kind of found was this print shop. After finally getting, his internships and shit, and this print shop in the mall, where one of the most common things he did was print funeral T-shirts, and that's going to contribute to depression, man. No matter what you do, yeah, people who get, and that's just one of the most mind-boggling things of the last few years, of the last couple of decades of just printing dead people's faces on T-shirts, and they're all like, and you don't do a funerary T-shirt for a guy who dies at 80, with pictures of him throughout the years. No, it's going to be some young guy with a do-rag around his head, and that's the best photo you've got of him. That's going to be, yeah. that and another popular one, you know, the only good one you're gonna hope for is like the big family reunions when you're like you've got so many hundreds of people that a print run of T-shirts sounds okay. Yeah, that sounds like a good idea, but then you're also gonna have these get so and so free so and so, you know, because person's in jail. Which I always said, if you okay, here's my tip, guys. If you ever commit a bunch of crimes and are going to go to jail, tell the police that your nickname is Hugs when they arrest you. So that way, boom, you got a bunch of people wearing free Hugs T-shirts. There will be a silent, unknown campaign to free you, no matter what the hell you did. I just forgot that keeping my pen in brush mode and flipping it around will actually get allowed for. I keep on forgetting that you can flip the pen around and it'll automatically go to erase. Boy, I feel stupid every once in a while. And today was kind of interesting. Had to. Oh, this last week, my over the weekend, my car like right after payday, and I'd spent all my money like paying bills. Then my car goes kaput, and I have to have that looked into. And it's damn near $1,000 to get fixed because it's the rack and pinion. Rack and pinion. It's the rack and the pinion, but But today, today I've got the money to go pick it up, and I decided to walk up there because it was a nice day outside, and then after that I drive up to Palladium Books, and you know, Kevin's like, wow, I know you've got car troubles, and that's a big money hassle and everything. And, you're so quiet today. I don't, and he's like, don't take this wrong. I like the quiet you, Ben, not the loud, crazy you. And I don't actually have like an exterior camera. It's just going to be capturing. But and it was like, yeah, are you feeling okay? And I'm like, yeah, I feel okay, but I think it's just I walked a couple of miles. I walked like 3 I think miles, maybe even I walked like a couple miles just to get pick up my car in this big circuitous route. And so yeah, I think I just got enough exercise for a change. That's when I'll calm down. I really hate to think that is like the biggest cure to everything. I'm depressed. Walk 5 miles. Fresh air, and footwork. I'm. Oh, the kid's hyperactive. We'll have him go walk 5 miles. And I've got the gout. Walk 5 miles. And quit drinking. I'm in love with 100 girls. Well, then walk 500 miles. Yeah, I don't actually have a camera set up yet, a webcam kind of thing yet, which is for the best because I'm not really that good looking. I'll just be happy to stream you guys the actual page that I'm working on. But another thing I've got to get ready for is I think it's they got snagged with customs before Gen Con. I think it was almost across the border, you know, whatever. I think they're still anticipating it. But Palladium Books, the Robotech RPG Tactics, is somewhere, I think, in the States, maybe, on our shore. And they gave me one of the preliminary copies that I had actually managed to get here. They have a few copies that they were these were the final packaging, finally, to, you know, for all the final approvals and whatnot. And I've got one of those now, and I've got to learn the game so I can start helping to demo it at conventions that, you know, they're not going to be at because those guys are working crazy long shifts. You know, I'll show up there in the afternoon, and I'll be leaving at the same time as them late night, you know, 10 or some, and the average day for them will be, they're all averaging, I think, 12-hour days of just like in the office and writing, and then they'll take breaks and go run their errands and live their lives in the daytime, but even still. It's a crazy schedule for them, and it's nice to see that, you know, that we finally got these dice with Robotech RDF and Zentradi logos on them. These cute little 6-sided dice that are part of the game. Oh. Yeah, that not being able to stand well, then definitely, if you can, and that's well, exercise is so important, and we all really should be dedicating a lot more to this. Let me check up those, but it becomes such a huge hassle nowadays. And here's the thing: is like the best exercise ends up costing you so much money. If your problem is, you know, not being able to stand that long, then one of the easiest fixes is swimming. Is, you know, even a few laps at a time, eventually you get so much stronger, and it's the lowest impact exercise. And I used to be able to swim like an otter, swim like a fish. That's why, you know, my early, you know, pseudo persona, I never really RP'd as them, but, you know, I have all those, that little otter character that was kind of my site host. Because I used to be on a swim team when I was a kid with the YMCA, but that YMCA is now torn down. The only place around me is a couple of towns over but it's a 24-hour place. But then again, it's also a 24-hour place, so it's one of those places that doesn't have a lifetime membership. You're just paying out the ear for every month. But I gotta budget on to what I'd be willing to give up to go out and work out there. giant Lifetime fitness places. I need to start swimming again, probably. Maybe drive up there after work, swing up there after work, my day job, and just, you know, at midnight, and just spend some time swimming laps before going to bed, instead of just sitting around at home trying to cool off, especially one of my more stressful nights up at work. The customer, they just so stupid. But if, trust me, if I had a camera, I'd be like doing a little unboxing, I think, for the RPG. I probably should record an unboxing, or at least ask the Palladium guys if they've done an unboxing yet, just to show, yeah, this is what the RPG Tactics box actually looks like. And here's all the little goodies in it. You've got a full squadron of Zentradi and a full squadron of, a couple of squadrons of Robotech, RDF, Robotech Defense Force. Which is like really one of the, right now it's going to be, you know, when it hits the streets, it's going to be one of the best deals in gaming, tabletop gaming, because almost everybody else is, well, for, you know, $50 you can get, okay, half of your side, and you gotta have another guy to spend $100 or so to get their army assembled. And here it is for $100. You're gonna get a big old box set that has enough to do a small battle for 2 players. And you know, you can add, I mean, all the, you know, there's a bunch more cool stuff that you can add that costs more. It'll cost you more, of course, but that's an option. The core of the game is just in one single box instead of 8. There's no 19 different codexes to worry about. See, her tail here isn't even meeting the damned paper on there. I'm also trying to do the Google image search backgrounds a lot less. Of course, another odd aspect is I'm doing the Google image search items that I then draw in a lot more. I'm on the latest page. Sarah's dad, Arthur Hazen. You know, I did Google image searches for the paintings on the wall behind him, the next characters we're going to see beyond Arthur. I believe the script calls for a bit with Lee, and then a bit with Sarah, and Jean being all, okay, we're going to be friends sort of now. Line weights correct. This was also before I had switched pen style to the repeatographs. I was doing those tech pens, the Stapler pigment liners, which are kind of like the Sakura microns. And they never really lay down the ink like you'd like them to. I think what my technique was, I'd scan and then I'd use a magic wand tool to fill in the black and then delete out the white, and now I do using adjust tools, and it's a lot quicker. And magic wand. And then of course all the weight I worked off probably with that big long walk I put right back on with ice cream. But it's late summer, and Dairy Dan has trotted out their pumpkin pie flurries. half hours drawing. I haven't hit save yet. Oh God, Tartan. Oh man. Wait. Okay, so Tartan for the Black Watch. Are you talking about? Black Watch is a group in Games Workshop and that, or are you talking about the Tartan of the Black Watch? Because there is a Black Watch Tartan, I think. It's like a gray or a dark black, gray and a black or something like that. Oh, okay. Fuck. Tore the Yeah. Tore the meniscus. Damn, that looks. And then, of course, I've got the curse of being having a relatively healthy body, which means I get voluntold for everything by all my by any group in fandom. Any of the convention heavy lifting to be done. We need some last-minute slave work. Oh, Ben's there. But speaking of Palladium books, here's a piece I did for them in the newest book, the Hell Battle Barge in Rift's Megaverse in Flames. And you could tell, I was like, okay, I'm not going to have the time to scan this in and then play with it on the computer, and if I do, I'm probably going to lose the file or not be able to I'm going to forget to hand it in before they go to print, and they'll just go with the drawing version anyways, so let's dot tone it. And the original on this is originally drawn on 11 by 17, of course. Yeah, I saw that at the Sailing Celtic Fest a month ago, and I'm like, I was so eyeballing some kilts there, and I wasn't sure if I really wanted to buy one, and I didn't really have the money for one. Eventually, although then again, that's probably too old for that, or nobody would be seeing. If I wore a kilt, nobody would care. I don't think. But just something I might as well plug. Just saw this today on James Desborough's streaming. He is crowdfunding a Chronicles of Gore Postmortem Studios, Chronicles of Gore tabletop RPG. And, it's going to be, well, and I'm not sure if they, is this going to just be pictures, or are they going to say, yeah, this was... And a couple books. Okay, it's $220. They're looking for $5,000. It's not too unreasonable, I don't think. And here I'm saying, it's not too unreasonable. It's. What are those really want to poke around and see if there's any comments yet, because this is always such, for those in the know, this can be such flea bait. But for $20, both books, that's, or at least PDF copy of both books when the books are complete, and probably $60 will be if I kick into this, I'll probably have to do $60. And this is, but this, but he's Britain. He's never been afraid of, yeah. Tackle controversial stuff. I mean, one of his games that he put out a bit ago was a card game called titled Check Your Privilege. So I think he might just be tackling this just with a sheer political incorrectness of the basically doing a gore RPG, which I have nothing but respect for. And in the fact, in the pitch, that one of the things he points out in the pitch, I believe, on it is, you know, hey, 50 Shades of Grey. You know, this is there may be, you know, some people that want to. And to me, it just seems the whole Gorian lifestyle just seemed silly to me, anyways, because it already seemed like, okay, we're gonna introduce not just role playing elements of like being character, but also role playing elements of there's a rule set as just roughly as complex as the advanced Dungeons and Dragons, you know, D&D second edition rules. I was like, hey, can we just fuck now? No, you haven't determined Thago. And if you hate gore, damn it, you would have been like the one. I wanted to throw in a joke a while back, Kato. When we first have Juniper Stebbins, the female wannabe werewolf, presenting herself to Sarah, I actually drew her in. I was going to have her refer to herself as, you know, as a. I was going to ad-lib a thing where she refers to herself as a Kajira. I think I might argue with to Chris to let me introduce the term anyways again, because on that page reintroduce it, because there's another point where I thought like it would be perfect for her to use the term Rishathra. So like one of Juniper's things could be in whatever werewolf reading she had done. She had misread a bunch of science fiction novels. It had appropriated terminology from them, from Ringworld and gore. But I actually drew her in like one of the Gorian slave positions. Was it Nasu? I'm gonna have to talk to Chris about that. Okay. I'm gonna have to read a couple of those books actually. I found a couple that were in like a free, you know, drop one off, take one off stack of books at a literary sci-fi con. So I'm like, I've got a couple in my TBR stack. Can ever just get the time to read what's in my TBR stack. And that's why I'm catching up on Brent Weeks via graphic audio audiobooks. The only reason why I know, you know, their graphic audio is also the only reason why I know of Brett Weaver I'm thinking on stealing some of Brett Weaver's wards, or at least borrowing them, and because that's why I kind of left the wallpaper behind Arthur blank in this hotel room. I'm thinking of actually having it, making a wallpaper that is like some symbol, a bunch of symbol references, because if you noticed in chapter 10 of Peter's the Wolf, the wallpaper that shows up in Sarah's room is actually the wallpaper is the yellow sign. I probably, I pointed that out. I point it out every so often, so people who talk to me all the time or read my stuff all the time probably notice that I'm like, the bizarre in-jokes. First of all, you got her father, who I've been trying to draw more and more, if you haven't noticed, so he kind of looks like H.P. Lovecraft, like a blonde H.P. Lovecraft. And then, of course, oh shoot, I didn't put in the text for the building it's working on, but in a couple of chapters ago, when you saw the building he's working on, he works for Brady, Shandor, and Johnson, and he's working on the Vannicut Mental Wellness Center. And Chris doesn't have that as any part of the script. These are the little details I'd added. And, Chris actually came up with Brady, Shandor, and Johnson. Because I was like, hey, we should have him work for B.S. Johnson in reference to Discworld. And he said, like Brady from the Brady Bunch, Evo Shandor from Ghostbusters, and Johnson, so it spells out B.S. Johnson from Discworld. And, of course, I added just recently, him, the building he's working on as a refurbishment is the Vonnegut from House on Haunted Hill remake. So it's either just cute little, one-off riffs, one-off in-jokes or references to a bunch of different stuff, or he's neck deep in the paranormal and not noticing. Even more so than, Sarah is. He's working on haunted, insane asylums and... buildings that are larger on the inside than there are on the outside, and the government work he probably did was for the guys and for the he probably laid the foundations of the place in Cabin in the Woods, which I just recently saw and added those images to the Peter's the Wolf Facebook. The bit where the girl makes out with the taxidermied wolf head. I liked that quite a bit. Which was, of course, a very bizarrely... That was one of the most awkwardly arousing things in modern cinema. And that was a Power Ranger, too, that did that. You guys hear all this little clicking, which is me flipping the pen, the Wacom tablet pen, around in my hands. I also haven't wasted a couple hours of the night just doing midnight hashtag war hashtags, which I probably, Photoshops, which, I don't know, I should at some point again. Those were such nice little stress relievers, and they got me a few more watchers on my Twitter. Very awkward followings from people with an claiming Ernest Hemingway names, and that's all because I'm one of the it was at midnight's Shart Week, so you're making poo versions of toilet humor versions of the Shart books, famous literary books. So I did Ernest Hemingway's For Whom the Taco Bell Tolls. Yeah, I don't have any of the actual Ringworld novels. I caught up with Ringworld via Overdrive Media Player. It's got like Ringworld's Children, all the way up to Ringworld's Children in known space, and that's basically how I keep abreast of. That's how I've been catching up on all the real. These are the real you must read sci-fis. My friend Emily. She's a big Supernatural fan, and it's kind of funny. She's in the. My friend Emily, long-term friend. Knew her when she was knee-high to not really that long, but I've known her since she was. Well, I've known her since she was jailbait. Let's just put it at that. Inappropriate yaoi fangirl jailbaited. That's how long I've known her. Now she's a grown woman in the military, but she's still a huge nerd. And one of her most frequent running gag. So one of the hugest, it's this big kind of in-joke where it's anytime that she's asking for a weekend off, it's obviously that's going to be one of the weekends where that's because there's a convention that weekend. It's almost all her COs understand this now. also think I think I finally came up with also the best definition I could of nerd recently. I think I finally defined it is you're somebody who thinks about something you love so much that you eventually hate it. Because if you ever talk up to somebody who's like a real geek, really into something, you know, in that nerdiness, geekiness spectrum, or the people that are most into this stuff are also the ones that will point out every flaw. That the more and more they thought about, you know, these little plot holes or these little, you know, the details they got wrong because, oh yeah, this movie or this, you know, thing made me want to read up on this subject, and now I know more about the subject than the person who wrote it did eventually. And even though, you know, years later he said, well, yeah, I didn't really know what the structural tensile strength of script would be or whatever, you know, some kind of detail, some minor detail like that. But now it's like every time I go back over those old passages, it drives me nuts because I know this couldn't be possible because blah, 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 blah. Or, you know, like, oh, I've been such a huge fan of this show ever since it began, and okay, yeah, admit it. And like, oh man, should I join it, start watching it? Well, don't start watching it before the third season because the first two seasons were shit, you know, in hindsight. I also became a fan of Daniel Hecht and Patricia Briggs thanks to Overdrive Media Player audiobooks. Well, not exactly a fan of Patricia, but I like her. I like the Alpha and Omega novels. I haven't gone through the whole Mercy Thompson series. I just like Taylor Anderson's. And I doubt I ever will. There's so many books in that now. When I've actually got a TBR stack of audiobooks now, including the second book in the Lightbringer saga, the entire, I think, Forest Kingdom saga on audio, and there's a bunch of books that I picked up with the recently ended for the year summer listening program from Overdrive Media Play, you know, from Audiobook Sync. You know, I've listened to some of the shorter books in the series and even caught up finally on, I finally listened to Anna Green Gables. And really, any geek would like Anne of Green Gables, even though it's so Canadian, and I really think they should make some references to her in Anime North stuff, but she's such a cute... There's just one moment where she and her friends are all making up stories, and my goodness, you know, this is in 1911, I think the first novel was released, and the descriptions of the stories that you just hear descriptions of the stories that young Anne of Avonlea and Shirley of Avonlea and her friends are making up these little stories. They sound literally like fan fiction, just that level of, you know, just what we all make fun of fanfic writing quality as. And you don't read any of her stories, but you hear about the adult reactions to them because like they'll read their stories for some of the grown-ups, and well, they seem to get it wrong because they laughed at all the sad parts, and they it's like, yeah, it was that so much of that novel makes fun of kids. It's a book of about kids, but it, and for kids, but it's so much of it. You listen to it, you encounter this book as an adult, and oh my god, there's so much that's making fun of young people and little kids and little red-haired girls are specific. And there's also just that. I think why it was so endearing is because, yeah, okay, yeah, it mocked the genre that it was in as well, because they always had these, novels, these semi-melodramatic novels of, you know, little orphan kids or little impoverished kids and being kids being little angels and stuff. The novel Little Lord Fauntleroy, was kind of the epicenter of the unironic version of the virtuous little child novel. That's almost too good for this. And of course, the Little Lord Fauntleroy itself had a horrible impact on society of the 1800s and in basically inspiring a bunch of haircuts and child fashions for little boys who really didn't, of course back then you didn't have any choice into what your parents dressed you in, so basically there was some measure or length of time when mothers must have been just dressing all their children like Pip from South Park and little Ascot and Dickies, and kind of thing. And what nobody, and very few people will point out is that was completely because of the pop culture of the time. That was the Little Lord Fauntleroy haircut and the little knee length trousers and high socks, that all that that all that stuff, that was basically the 1860s version of naming your kid Jacob and or Edward Cullen, this horrible. It should be considered child abuse. We're gonna name you after. It's gonna be clear by how old you are that. Oh, we named you PETA, Peeta, huh? Wonder what book your mom was a fan of, Because no man had a chance. Edward and the spike in name kids being named Edward and Jacob, and that really has to. There's got to be so. Men really should be pissed off more often. I think adult men need to change their names more from what their parents named them, because quite frankly, in the last few years, it's been getting ridiculous with names that will just follow a kid for life. And I think, and I would really. Okay, here's a new thing that just now ticks me off now that I'm thinking about it. about the Twilight naming phenomenon and other, and the other similar. Oh, we're gonna name a kid after mommy's gonna name her kid because she's gonna be determining this name. No guy is gonna vote. No father is gonna vote for this. If a woman is naming her son after a literary character, right? After a male literary character, from some young adult heartthrob novel, some romance book or whatever. She just literally named her kid somebody who she wanted to be fucking when that kid was conceived. That's just wrong. Nobody ever points that out. I mean, if all women did this, you'd end up having a bunch of kids named, Michael Jordan Rodriguez or something like that, or Shaquille O'Neal, and it would be very obvious too, Oh, my son's named Timothy. Oh, well, that's actually a numberal name. Timothy Tebow. Okay, we know who dick you really wanted. No man can walk away from that feeling good. Oh, God. Well, don't forget my initial spell out, B-A-R. My sister's spell out E-R. Jed being the turn of the 60s. Although nowadays, J-E-D almost sounds like, when you spell it out, J-E-D with the periods there, that sounds like like a kit that you should actually be some kind of supercar. Although actually no, J-E-D would be the Jed with periods in after every letter would be a robotic speedboat that helps solve crimes. I'm not sure what they stand for, but that's what it is. That's what you are, man. You are a speedboat. Like with those sweet that sweet spoiler on the back. Like a couple of turbo engines. And every few episodes they're just like some kind of crazy jump stunt. You have that digitized voice. I'm not sure who drives you. But he's always talking to you, and you're like, "Oh, what is it like to be human?" And he's got a name. He's got a. Who the hell drives? Who the hell pilots Jed? that's something I'm going to have to think about before we pitch this to the networks. I mean, we'll probably just go for syndication. I mean, shoot primarily in Florida. Oh, and for like one special, I mean, he's not going to play Dexter, but the guy from Dexter is going to be like, yeah, we're going to be chasing a serial killer. And the funny thing is, here's the clever thing, he won't actually be the serial killer. But he's going to guest star in that episode, or I think it's always going to be playing serial killer, he's going to be playing Dexter, but he's going to be just like somebody who has to be, protected maybe towards the end, but he's still going to be a guest star. Stunt casting. Practically hear the TNT kicking down my door right now to get some in on this sweet, sweet project. Shoot. What I gotta do here is edit, stroke, it's that. By the squeaking of my chair, something wicked has no hair. Oh, right. A little goof of mine. randomly humming that tune from. Then of course I've now just recently caffeinated to help me keep me up till midnight for you guys, and I'm now dealing with. But now I'm just humming that tune from Star Trek. Ba 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 ba. Whenever Kirk would be doing like kind of the hand to hand, they'd be hitting, him and Spock are swinging each other with the bladed sticks, and it's Ponfar time. But now I'm just thinking, if you just added a little bit to that tune, you'd have that ba 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 ba, but you could just add a, ba ba da ba ba da ba 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 da ba 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 dum ba da ba ba da. You could have ska trek. Well, I know you can't work in Starfleet all your life, but don't sign that paper tonight, she said, but it's too late. Ba da da ba ba da ba 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 ba. Great. Now I want to redo that song. I want to do Real Big Fish's Sell Out and make it about ska music. or make a ska song about Starfleet. There are not enough ska filkers. Ska. Okay, you've got people. Great Luke Ski. He mostly works in. And other people, they'll often just do one instrument or band in a box, but then they often just drift towards things like hip hop and rap. Like Ski and some of the nerdcore guys, but just bring some trumpets in there. Yeah, let's have somebody doing ska filks. Because those are already funny, cute, high energy songs anyways, right? So. Spock. Well, actually, the Spock and Kirk fight would, of course, go with Guile's theme too, because we know that Guile's theme goes with everything. I see somebody else joining the conversation too. This is gonna be fun. Man, I really maybe I should. I don't know how to upload these. I think turn these into YouTube videos, but I probably should start doing that, shouldn't I? If I can actually fill one of these up in sound, because I'm typically so boring. What are those? This is like, you can, the lines look like this because probably my pens were blowing out when I was doing this, you know, because that's the big problem I ran into with the tech pens, is they just, for me, they just dry out so quickly. No, I just said that so slowly, but it really became an issue. That's why I changed up the repeated growth Koh-i-Noors. That's why I changed up to the 11 by 17 pages, which I probably should put a few of those in the mail to Chris to see if anybody wants. I just filled up one of those little nice new style portfolio cases for 11 by 17 pages with the last couple of chapters of Peter's the Wolf and the Namai story. And so now that I'm in the start of a new chapter, I gotta go run up to Michael's and pick up a new one. If I really wanted to kill productivity, I'd probably dip back into the original page and completely redraw this as well, and or put in like a ton of background details. It's kind of funny, somebody was pointing out on the message boards recently favorite panels he wants everybody to, on the message boards there's a guy who wants everybody to point out or just mention what their favorite panel so far in Peter's the Wolf has been. And I can tell you, I can list a dozen or so least favorites of my own. Not even for like what the script content was, just how well, I really screwed the pooch on this one, on this panel, or I fucked this up over here, or fucked this up over there, and still haven't gotten around to fixing it. And that's so much of what happened with this book. There was just some points where I was just so low of energy, and getting everything done just now everything's almost, for me, has been the last while, it's been stressful, but also almost manic when I'm trying to complete pages. But Kevin Simbeta allowing me to just swing by Palladium Books offices and just kick up shop on his tables, and he's got these nice art tables with light board things, and and there'll also be other people there, and just being in that little office environment on Wednesdays and Thursdays a lot of the time really feels good. Helps me, gives me the time to get some of this stuff done. So that's why I'm so dedicating so much of this nowadays to let's get as much done drawn I'm trying to draw more and more of this of the strip practically, instead of doing just little Photoshop tricks to copy and paste textures and stuff. That's why you see me doing. I mean, the Tamamo no Mae was the major art shift story. Where like, oh, you noticed how much of those panels? Because I didn't do anything in the panels. Hmm? Editing wise, that was, I didn't add any tones digitally. I didn't do any wash tones or whatever, because I was kind of trying to do it, make as much look like the ukiyo-e portraits, and also then trying to make it look like the the grimmer and grittier manga style. So a lot of those pages were just me just literally dot toning and hash toning, old school for a long time. I'm wondering if I should... Anybody seen the new page up yet? New page, new actual story chapter. We're in chapter 14 now, and yeah, that panel needed there's so much area here that where there's no true black, where there's no... Oh God, what the... So you literally bought a store pack one. They were already dry by the time you got them out of the package. That's ridiculous. Do want to anybody, because there's, you know, of course we also have the WRP boards. I'm just a little curious right now as to, no, there's no, but no. I was wondering if anybody had noticed this. I don't think I'll point it out, but yeah. I actually did just like a very quick copy of an actual, a couple of a famous painting. And then, of course, instead of a light bulb going off in his head when he has an idea, he has, well, if anybody recognizes what that is. Probably gonna miss out on. Would you guys like to see more from me? I mean, I probably should point this out to like non-Peter is the Wolf, non-artwork stuff from me. I should probably poll my DeviantArt and for Affinity people. But I have a Samsung Galaxy 3 tablet now, as part of my new phone upgrade, and that has a El Cheapo, right, video cam, right, it's got the camcorder feature as part of the camera. And Onizumi Harstein, I really respect her a lot. I really enjoy, even if I haven't been to Intervention in years, her convention, and now she's got a Doctor Who convention that she's organizing. But she does, I really love her haunt reviews. And while I'm thinking I'm not likely to make it up to the Renaissance Festival this year because of money and time, I might actually make a big sweep, because they're doing their first year. The Michigan Renaissance Festival is going to be doing some. No, not Michigan Lottery. Michigan. There we go. This Halloween in Holly Grove, and they're going to be doing after the regular season closes. They're going to do the Horton Lake Uplink and the Phantom's Feast. And I might pay my way into these things, but also Saturday instead of Friday, Saturday, and Sunday to get both of these things in, even though it'll be expensive as hell. But doing like reviews, because Oni does haunt reviews, and I'm like, I love to go to haunted attractions anyways. And I was thinking maybe actually doing videoing. Doing video blogs of haunt reviews this year, because I'm gonna go to some haunted attractions during October anyways. And well, I think it might be easier than writing is to just while the place is fresh in my mind, come out of the place and say, oh, this is what I thought, this is what they could do. I had some choice thoughts about Blake's Haunted Orchard last year, and none of it was like bad, but it was like, well, this is what they could do better, and this is where I think they wasted effort, but this is like where they really wowed me, because that was a whole orchard there that and like one of the things was I went on their zombie safari, which is like you're loading up these little paintball guns and you're shooting the zombies with paintballs, and these guys in kind of like bulked up outfits actually to take the hits from all those paintballs at close range. And you're in like a hayride. It's kind of like a hayride, and you're being pulled by this tractor that has a full setup for the weaponry. For these, they're like auto-firing paintball guns, and they're all linked to one huge compressor. And there was a cool little decorations as you go by these little shooting gallery vignettes with the quote-unquote zombies jumping around. But a few of the things they had recurring was these barrels marked, just with a spooky painting on them that glowed in the black light, was cider. And I was like, well, actually what you should do, and I told this to them on Facebook, is add the word radioactive cider. So now you actually have an excuse for the zombies, and kind of like just a cute little joke. And then of course I started taking up that further mentally, and I didn't really bother to tell them, but it's like, yeah, if you want to do a narrative through story, you could even have it being quote unquote radium cider, like, and when you're doing your labels for the cider you're selling at the year, just have it like looking like an old 1920s labeling, and the story being in the 1920s they Blake's Orchard experimented with introducing healthy radium into the cider. Radium was all the rage, and Madame Curie was a star. Enjoy your... And I was even thinking like, well, that would be kind of funny to have like a little image of a barbershop quartet, advertising the benefits of radium apple cider. And then of course years later, now these zombies have risen from the ground because you put radium in apple cider. Cider with healthy radium to chase all the blues away. Invigorate the blood for each dad and mum as you sip on the cider today. Of course, I also want to do... for some weird reason, I've always the idea of being a corny anime shop quartet. You know, me and or Chris and a couple other vendors just need to organize ourselves and sing barbershop quartet harmonies of anime songs and songs about anime. And just annoy the convention staff wherever we go, yeah. Those were just ideas that I popped into my head while I was, you know, just going through this place. That's kind of how my mind works. A lot of, you know, when I go to a lot of places, I'll rank them and say, well, you know what, this worked, this didn't, this was kind of like cheaply done, this could have been a lot better, this. But this was, you know, something over here was excellent, and every once in a while, I mean, I'll do one of my favorite haunted attractions in Michigan was this one I went to, and it was just for a Lions Club fundraiser thing with volunteers, but it was that the scare actors, they let me go through twice. It was and it was walls out in the open with barely any decor, you know, not much decor, not much special lights. And they let me go through twice, and it was a different show each time. That was how good these scare actors were. And it was a different experience, and they were great. And it was this more of that confirmation. It's not how much you nail on the walls. It's not how many animatronics you have. It is the scare actors. There was one girl who was, I don't know if she was supposed to be in a werewolf costume or a creepy teddy bear costume. But, you know, I come into her little room, and she's like, you should dance with me. And I was like, well, this is oddly like being at a furry convention. And then, of course, I go to this through the second time. I dance with her, of course, and, you know, but I dance with her, and then I come through the second time, and okay, the second time I come through, she's got this corpse body kind of prop, and she's lying on the ground and humping it, attacking her, or supposed to be humping it and just like doing a weird thing. But I'm like, well, this is exactly like a furry convention. And the guy right after her, I'm going through this section, and it's just like a little pseudo maze of cloth that is hanging in front of you, and there's only a few ways through. There's a few breaks in these cloths, but you have to kind of like walk around them and stuff and get yourself sorted out. And there's this guy circling behind me and around me in the cloth as these sheets, I'm moving through them, and he's whispering in this ominous voice, you know, I see you when you are sleeping. Do you understand? Do you feel afraid? And I'm like, oh my god, he's haunting me with Wilson Phillips. I'm just losing it. I'm laughing so hard. These guys were great. And it was kind of funny because they were one with, and they were so good, they were one with a and I'd heard people screaming out shivers, which was their safe word that night. You know, these young girls going through are like just totally, it's too much for them. And here I am, like going through, and I'm in the blood-soaked kitchen setup and playing tic-tac-toe and fake blood with one of the haunters. It was so much fun. These guys were amazing. And then I'm on exit 13 in Flint. I dragged up my cousin and his roommates at the time up to go there, and that was a completely different animal. Where they were saying, like, you know, flat out, we got up there and you could tell it was a Flint. A Flint. You could tell that this place was in Flint because when we got up there were cops hauling off somebody. You know that we're trying to get ourselves oriented and driving up there, and you know we see the cops, you know, screaming by with their flashers on, and we're like, haha, maybe they're going to the haunted attraction too. We get up to the haunted attraction and the cops are there, and we're like, oh my god, we were just joking, we didn't. And some dumb young punk teenager had punched one of the, or they'd run, you know, him and his friends would run through and then trying to hit the scare actors, and then of course they're being hauled off. You know, they weren't going to let them get away with that, of course, and they knew the score. But I'm like, yeah, this is a Flint attraction. And if I do videos, this is the thing I'm going to do. I'm going to do a video of, I'm going to try and organize a haunt crawl where me and some friends hit up multiple haunted attractions in one night, and then we'll like videotape ourselves, you know, reviewing them, discussing them. Of course, we'd have to get that, you know, like the first weekend out, probably for it to be relevant. But I love. There's a couple of places in Flint that I love. I love Exit 13, and I love, what is it? The Haunted Asylum, which is actually at the Flint Play Park. They convert this place into, and it didn't get up there last year, and I want to get up there definitely this year. So there's a bunch of things where I'm thinking like, I could probably make some interesting videos for you guys. Do a little video blogging. I mean, even if it isn't like the most amazing quality, just doing something, you know, just doing some haunt reviews of Michigan haunts as we're hitting them up, that could be pretty fun. Because I always like to give shout outs to the places that I like in any way I can. One of the jokes that I'm gonna try, and so me and Chris can work this in, is because in Peter's the Wolf right now in their time scale, of course, it's the opening semester of school. They've gotten past September, and now they're working their way through October. This book, I think, is going to be working its way through Halloween. And you realize, and I was joking, and I had a little scriptlet idea of you know, Jack and Carla, the Pack Alphas having to react to the notion that, oh, Sarah is now this huge attraction accidentally as the park monster. And so I was thinking of like having a little scriptlet where they're reacting to the latest thing is a bunch, like several haunted attractions have, we've got the real park monster at our, you know, at our attraction. And of course none of the, but then of course it would be none of the things actually look like Sarah. They all look like, you know, monster Bigfoot things. Because I think, you know, yeah, a werewolf girl actually, you know, showing up probably would have that effect. It would, you know, she's already kind of affecting local pop culture and turn the Tiki Lily's into a parapsychologist bar. I think another scriptlet idea is I need to talk to Chris about maybe a scene between to Debbie about a group of students that's not the muzzle group, like the Group B, Lab B, and like just him asking her to keep an eye on those guys because, in his opinion, they're about to go full Scooby, which is of course which would be in parapsychologist speak to break into a place with with their own body weight in weed and a Ouija board and accidentally burn a historic museum, a historic structure down. Feeling the need to break up these walls of light before I start adding dot tone or shade tones and whatnot. And if I do some very basic generic work, even just this stuff, when it's on page, your mind will actually do the rest of the work for me. As long as I lay the groundwork. But if you're wondering what that hexagonal thing is that was representing on the latest page, his coming up with an idea, 3 words. Solar freaking roadways. What do they mean? Solar freaking roadways. What do they want from us? They're solar freaking roadways. They're also a huge scam, but we can leave that aside. That's neither here nor there. But I got introduced to them. I got introduced I was already, I was seeing so many people sharing that on LiveJournal for various things, and geek crowd just going, oh yeah, that's so, and part of it was just it went viral, and that's when I found out, and then but I only really bothered to look up on him when Thunderfoot did his debunking of the entire solar frickin' roadway project. We said, no, this will never work, and here's the reasons why. But you prove to a white knight that they are being ripped off, and they double down, which is really unique. Which is a nice way of saying it. Insane. Yeah, essentially, yeah. Okay, Kato, was it an actual guillotine? Because that was one of the things that ticked me off with Blake's Haunted Orchard was they on their ride they had a girl get killed by a dude, and there was a guillotine just as a backdrop, but it never came. I thought like, oh my god, they're gonna do the guillotine false beheading magic trick, and no, he drags her behind it and hits her with a fake axe with a thunk sound, and I was like, oh, that was so disappointing. And I pointed that and I mentioned that on their Facebook. Otherwise I was liking this, and then I was like also, but I was like picking apart their ride. I'm like, well, here's ways you could improve it. You just have like criminals and insane guys running through the woods, and that's not really okay. That really doesn't do much. But I was like, hey, here's other ideas you could do in the woods. You think woods, you think farming. How about we have this be instead? Give us a narrative of okay, we're going to drive around, and it's going to be pilgrims, like psychotic pilgrims and witches, because they're going to be persecuting, like kind of Salem witch trial style, killing witches, but then you'll actually have real witches, they're going to be killing women, but then you can also have these women who are the witches, and they'll be actually, doing other things to kill the peasant, the pilgrims and stuff, and that would be a really cool thing, because then they have these girls in witch outfits giving out donuts and free cider at the end of the ride. I'm like, yeah, I always like the idea of narrative in a haunted attraction. As opposed to just, okay, here's just a bunch of random props in this, here's props in this room, here's props in that room, here's our bloody kitchen, here's our bloody, here's our redneck area, here's our clowns. I don't really like that idea. I think if you're going to go, okay, we're going to concentrate on killer clowns, well then, okay, how about we have a full circus? How do you get some big jock guy, some good-looking jock guy or whatever, and have him be the, some young guy volunteer with good muscles, have him be like the strong man, and how about we have a thing where he rips somebody in half, a prop person, somebody who's gimmicked rips a girl in half or something with his colossal strength, so they'll have the whole circus be wrong and have that theme, or make it and I just thought about that. I hadn't put any thinking before that into that. Here's just me just brainstorming things you could do to just introduce a little touch of narrative instead of having here's our crazy criminals room, here's our guys with masks, and of course if I was going to go of course I would, if I was going to run one, I would actually do a Dungeons and Dragons influenced haunted attraction. I think I'd end up in, instead of just guys in masks, okay, let's try to get them all some similar masks or whatever, and have these guys, they're going to be orcs, and have some makeup to dudes who are like creepy elves or something, and or even design some custom masks for the elves, but so do a high fantasy thing, and then of course all the decor is more and more and you can still have your demons and your dragons because those always show up in role-playing games, but give people the idea also have maybe some multiple paths based on some dungeon crawl style puzzles. Of course, I'm always like, if I always have ideas for like, well, these could be really so much more interesting. A lot of places tell you, okay, please shut off your cell phones before going to a haunt. Well, how about instead you have a haunt with QR codes, with like glow in the dark paint to make QR codes? Wouldn't that be fascinating to have a little more like ARG, alternate reality gaming interactivity, as part of your project? You find these codes, you scan them, and you get little points of in little clips or whatever, even more spooky on your cell phone. One of the guys on Haunted Topic Radio was discussing a few episodes back that I listened to, was talking about, oh, we have this haunt, and when little kids go through, if they look like they're going to be scared, we're going to give them a magic wand, and it's a glow stick, you know, with a little wand attachment, and the monster, you know, all our scare actors will know, oh, you're going to, the monster, you're going to go come out and snarl, but if you see the little kid waving this thing, you're going to go and, you know, react to that like, oh, it's the magic wand, I can't go near you now, and you know, you can give mommy and daddy a full fright later, but what the kids are going through, it's not too scary, because but little bits of interactivity. I'm always interested in when these places up their game. Let's save and look for answers, comments from you guys. Oh yeah. Oh god. Used Cownex for the blade to cut. Took 15 minutes to reset each time. Oh, sweet. Yeah, see the dummy on the tilt board, that's cool. Fully authentic design. Yeah, see, I like the used blood bags feeding the neck arteries. It was a messy each time I triggered the blade. That's all. Time. Yeah, it takes time to reset, but damn it, time, you know, effort always shows, and effort always impresses, and effort of any kind. I'm surprised we don't have a lot more laser tag places, you know, because if you already run a laser tag place, you should redecorate, obviously, for Halloween. You know, and make an interactive thing where they're going through, you know, your props. And even if you just have jump up props and the people are shooting at those, it'd be really fun to have people run through the laser tag game place that you run, but now it's a haunted one, and they can score points or whatever as that against zombies and, you know, whatnot. You'll have your scare actor volunteers and make extra money on the pizza and stuff. But you don't see that happening much. Why is that still not working? What am I doing? Let's zoom out. Let's open up pictures. Minimize. Pictures. No, not. Tools folder. Yeah, things I use as, including a Michigan State Police badge there. Things that I've used, you know, just things that I use to make it look like. Oh yeah, definitely. Oh, that would be, yeah, nominal, because that would be actually easy to do, because you're going to see that little light of the cell phone as the person's trying to scan the QR code, and then if the thing that they scan all of a sudden says "Don't look behind you," because that light, that's when the actor knows to go in. That guy is going to be distracted waiting for the QR thing to come in, and oh yeah, if it's a message of like "Don't look behind you," and then all of a sudden there's just a guy there, bam, you're going to let the person scare themselves, and those are always such great moments. And you could do things with and using the QR. I'm saying QR codes because that is something that people can instantly reuse. Now you can make it a side thing, as like I said, an ARG using QRCs, and but have it being like, okay, you're picking up little papers or something, and you'll download text files, maybe even. So when you get home, you've got if you find them all, you've got little pieces to a horror story too to read through while you were looking around, and you. But of course, also if you want to get all the QR codes, you're going to have to go into all the creepiest areas of there. You're gonna have to go hunting for these things, so you can't like just shy away and rush. You're gonna have to interact. You're gonna be forced to interact in every situation. You know, you can't blindly run through the dang place. You're gonna have to, and of course that'll also give people like, oh, you wouldn't notice the fake guts or whatever if you had just breezed through this place screaming. So add that sense of wonder too. Because one of the things I love to do, because I'm not an easy scare, I just like to go through and see what the interacting is like, and see what all the decor is, because people put such a huge effort a lot of the time into into the haunted attractions. Gradients. Lines, patterns I want. Leaf pattern, familiar, friend. Leaf pattern, you've seen me trot this thing out thousands of times. Because I think what I get to do is scrap that. Now that we have some real but yeah, like I mentioned earlier, I'll also do a mention of, instead of live streaming, I'll be doing Picardos now, because I know, okay, that's the one to do with if I want to, and I've got downloaded a thing for that too. So when I'm working on an adults only page, you guys will be able to watch me working on that. Because I always do a bit better work when there's somebody over my shoulder on this project. A live computer is just so much distraction, shall we say. So many conversations to want to join in on, and probably be good for me, so because I'll be avoiding flaming anybody. And let's face it, there's been quite a bit of media, just geek media right now, just erupting all around us, like the Quinn Gate and whatnot. And not that everybody really expected video games journalists of having the highest levels of integrity anyways when it came to journalism. These are, you know, these are people that'll literally, you know, oh, Kane and Lynch will be awesome, and you know, we know this will be awesome because they flew us out here and gave us and hosted a really cool party for Son of Rome, you know, series, you know, this new character that's just another, you know, thing that you've seen 1,000 times before. Oh, Dead Island. There will be no bugs in this, I'm certain, because of their trailer and their and the presence they had at the conventions with all the booze for us. All right. That's what I wanted to do because I wanted to zoom out with that. And I gotta add another strip of black here, I think. Here, let's actually work with what I'm. Even recently offered me an upgrade to my cables, so now I've got. So now I'm like, oh damn it! Now I'm gonna lose time if I'm not careful to finally getting around and watching Saving Mr. Banks and a bunch of other movies. Circle around here because I'm not going to move this from its track. Oh, now I want add. Go back, lasso. Lasso. Add this little section of 2 image adjustments. If I go, no, not brightness. Oh, what I'll do is a big old spray paint. 20%, 19%. When big. Nope. Wrong color, that's also. That work? Or is there a way to adjustments? No. Oh, that'll adjust. No, these will each. Yeah, that'll all adjust. That'll adjust it all. So really, the easiest way with the constraints that I put on it already. Just like that, and that's going to be now faded in comparison to everything else because that's the little. Yeah, Sarah leaves a Doppler effect when she's hunting down Peter. Her werewolf butt just hits warp speed. Something about Sarah and Jean I just realized is if you gave Jean a ukulele and Sarah a guitar, you'd have Garfunkel and Oates. Who knows? Maybe that's who they're gonna dress up for Halloween as this year. Just carry around the ukulele and guitar and see who guesses. Burst into random bits of 29 versus 31. There's nobody left, and I'm so alone. Although a song like Go-Kart Masturbation would actually be more Gene Speed. If you guys haven't, heard any of Garfunkel and Oates' songs, I just really started watching some of their stuff. I was watching Wootstock footage from 2013 one night, a few days, a week ago, and that was just, those two were too much. Ah, there we go. Now this is looking like a proper Peter's Wolf page. you know, what constitutes a proper Peter the Wolf page has been so changing with the art style, and you know, wanting to go back and add detailing because I was always in a rush to get, you know, these two pages together now. And even in the most recent chapter where, you know, the guys are chasing each other, you know, chasing down Sarah, there's no backgrounds and a bunch of stuff because I'm like, do I want this to be speed lines, or do I want this to be bricks behind them? I mean, shit, if you guys wanna. Vampirella, there's an idea. Yeah. Putting all these, like, even his little, like, valise here. I googled, you know, valise, and there's this cool little metal box thing on a store in, I think, France or something, that I found a link for, and I downloaded that image to draw for reference material. And then, of course, he's got this little tabletop swing set, which isn't in the script, but it's just one of these. Besides him accidentally, not purposefully dressing like the member of a barbershop quartet, just to his own close taste in clothing, which explains also a lot about Sarah. Let's see. I laugh at my own little witticisms way too much. Sign of a bad comedian. Let's see. Is it in Hunting Rule of Dumb? Right, no. This is going to be in the adults only version. Something to point out. Archive. Chapter 13. Yeah, background elements that aren't even really. I drew in from a Diego Rivera. I need to finish this up, and also I need to redraw these just so you can see what the hell they. I made fun of a Banksy thing, but it's excerpt from one of the Diego Rivera murals at the Detroit Institute of Arts of the guy in the factory, kind of like pulling the thing. And then, of course, the text above them is, I remember when these factories were still open. And then there's a Sasquatch head, from, you know, there's from Harry and the Henderson with Obey, like Andre the Giant. And then, of course, there's a little background detail of, you know, the Silver freaking roadway being the idea, and this painting right here I drew in. I think I'm going to hold off on for somebody to recognize it, hopefully. And well, Peter's two main sports are the things he knows best will be baseball. Maybe not Mickey Mantle. I'm trying to think of like a famous tiger that he would probably end up being dressing as if he was going to dress up for Halloween as a ball player. I'm not sure if did Mickey Mantle play. Who did Mickey Mantle play for? But you know, well, we're not exactly baseball town. We're hockey town up here. And here's the crazy thing is, I know next to nothing, literally nothing maybe about sports. Chris Overstreet, he actually knows, from foot. He knows, he's actually done. He actually enjoys football and stuff. And I just know is like, hey, these guys were just getting ahead. Why the hell is there being a ref called? And I honestly think that nowadays professional sports just, why are the refs blowing whistles all the time? It doesn't look like that. Why is this guy flopping on the ball court? I'm not sure. And I think this is soccer's insidious influence on the United States of America. It feels like we have now flopping in other professional sports, or people that will use referees, or referees that will like try to stall out the game, the momentum of the game for a team and whatnot. And the only sport I really think I understand and I can agree with the referees in is professional wrestling, and that's professional wrestling is the sport with the most honest referees I've noticed nowadays. It's all this to just get into jeans. There's so many locations. There's so many things I'd just like to. Yeah, Chris, write a scene in here again, or write a scene over here, just so I can try to draw this location. I want to draw, their house again. We've got like, I think we have like a full rotation of Rebecca Kramer's room right now in the Goodwin household. So really, if you look at the books, you can tell like exactly what it looks like from all. That one room of the house looks like from all sides. And we've done a bit more with the living room as well. So it's like, but then again, I have to come up with floor plans for all these places, and I probably really should, for a resource for everybody who really digs Peter's the Wolf, is just come up with yeah, this is the floor plan for Peter's parents' house, and this is the floor plan for, this is what it looks like over at the Goodwin estate, and of course the lodge being the most important building, because they're there all the time. And we've still never actually seen that place from the back, I don't think. We've and I'm only gradually now filling in a competent view of the campus. Not that. One of the threads on the WLP message boards was everybody wanted to point out this guy wanted everybody, hey, point out your favorite individual panel from Peter's the Wolf, and it's kind of funny, the one he picked was one that I really went and overhauled and redrew. Yep, you get to see me rethink the man ass. So important, so important. Well, we've already seen, we've also seen this guy in human form from the front in the shower, along with Peter, for a sauce for the gander, as they, sauce for the goose, sauce for the gander shower scene in book 3. And that Peter uses Menage a 3. Menage a 3, it's a, and of course, named after the webcomic. I named it after the webcomic as a reference to that, just for whatever reason. But for no real reason. I barely even read it, but I know of it. I think they've actually liked my stuff. But the reason why I named it after that is because also there's a Pert 3-in-1. And I'm like, that just sounds so perfectly horrible. And I've used it, and it's a shampoo, conditioner, and body wash in one, and it is obviously for men. It's obviously, this is what men are like. If we got one thing we just rub all over us, please, yeah, there, we'll just let it go with that. I'm now nearly a year to the date overdue with this thing. I'm only halfway through it, but as you can see, it really just looks like shit. I'm not sure if these were times when I was rushed or working on side projects, and this now I want to do another side project because I just saw Hentai Foundry, and there's still a month to enter in this as a pirate contest. I'd really like to draw a little side piece of a porny pirate girl, especially with the death of L.A. Meyer, who wrote the Bloody Jack series that I love so much. Damn it! And he's got the last book of his is coming out. This year. And that with death is like ended up affecting me a lot more than anybody else's this year so far. But then again, also he was a person that I had done fan art for, that he had liked, and he was a person that I was in and his wife too. I'm in semi-contact with through Facebook. So it's like, and I'm that way with a few different authors now. And I'm just like realizing, well, now this is going to be really messed up if, I love their work, and if they... There's also people like Elizabeth Moon. I'm not sure how old she is. I haven't double checked it recently, but she's getting up there. I loved a couple of her series. I've only recently, in the last decade, discovered Terry Pratchett like I should have a long time ago. And we all know he's dying. So as long as we're more like, oh, he's having a good day now. Hey, that's nice to hear that. We know he's on the decline right now. So all the additional time that we actually have with him, Stan Lee, I've never been in contact with, but he's an old man too, and I think a lot of people are like, oh, it's going to be, well, we can kind of expect. But I mean, really, Stan Lee, when he dies, there's not going to be like too many tears, I don't think, because it's going to be, well, hi, he left on, he died really kind of vindicated. He shed no tears for this man. He had a bunch of bit parts all through his declining years, little bit cameo parts in movies based on his, on this empire that he helped. He was kind of the spokesman for Marvel, and he helped create a lot of these iconic characters, and now they're all justifiably famous. And it really makes you kind of pissed off that movie technology hadn't been to the point where we could have actually seen we could have actually seen somebody like Mark Twain appearing in a adaptation of a movie of Tom Sawyer. I mean, even if it was just an old, like, barely there, barely sound and such. Wouldn't that be amazing? Just to say, wow, he actually, appeared in like the movie adaptation of his work. All the little Stephen King cameos. So when it gets, all these little things that, and I honestly think, every author should have an appearance in a movie based on their work as a cameo. Just nowadays, just so we can like have that moment of, they're recorded on film, and this is what they, because of course also I think that going with that, I think it does not behoove Hollywood to fuck up somebody else's writing project, some other character's literary or comic book project, especially when it comes to like novels, and you see this happening a lot because Hollywood just wants to, make everything stripped down as possible. They will really F over a sci-fi novel or a sci-fi short story or a young adult novel. The reason why the Hunger Games came out so well is because it was so intended. It was so cinematic right from the first book. It was already incredibly, so it was only like, even in adapting it, you're not going to have to cut away much from this, even though they did cut off, Peter had lost his leg in the first book and had an artificial leg, and they never made it and they never had that happen to him in the movies, which I'm not sure, do they really need to not do that? Because it's supposed to be a sci-fi artificial leg anyways, but then again, it was also, well, there's one more science special effects shot we don't want to do. He's supposed to be like walking with a cane in the second book and stuff, but they added little bits of stuff to help get the story across more effectively, but I mean, that was like one of the rare, Hunger Games and Harry Potter kind of like, okay, these are the good young adult novel adaptations, and I'm not sure about the source, and Aragon is just, didn't sound like too great of source material anyways. But then you also have Golden Compass was horrible adaptation. I'm not even sure what the original was like or how great that or bad that one was, but that one also died. You know, they went over like a lead balloon when they adapted it because they just done such a crap job. And then of course, also this year was Mortal Instruments. Last year was Mortal Instruments. This year it was Divergence. And of course we got Giver. I've got to go see that one, I think, because I heard that was like an actual good one. I did see last year. I did manage to go see what was the name? Oh, the game one. What's his name? Ender's Game. That's it. I went and saw the Ender's Game adaptation. I was really impressed with that, having never encountered actually the original book. I like the fact that they pointed to the term Ansible and used that. This conversation, this session, just knowing somebody that yeah. Oh, J Bones, do not worry. No, I hadn't talked about Guardians of the Galaxy yet. I saw it, hadn't read the comics. What had me mainly excited is because I'm a big Vin Diesel fan, even when he's just doing I Am Groot. And it looked good right from the get-go, and I was so happy with what they did with it, because everybody's just so... Because early in the year, and I really liked Winter Soldier as well, but Winter Soldier was very serious. So now in the summer we have the Marvel movie that's very silly and just lighthearted and space adventure and it was a bit, it's in itself, it was equal parts Star Wars and Hitchhiker's Guide. It definitely had the feel of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy in it, with just all the, Rocket Raccoon. No, you don't understand. I need that leg. And they had done a perfect job on the soundtrack. There's 70s and 80s music was a great fit. Just mainly because that's, could you imagine how horrible it'd be if they used 90s music or modern music, if they had done like what Spider-Man had with that, what Nickelback song at the very end, "A hero to save us"? No, that would have been horrible and dated the film. And now the way they've done it, the Guardians of the Galaxy soundtrack and the way they used it is and how it was part of his character, that soundtrack is an integral part of the film, and it doesn't date it. Instead, it makes the soundtrack itself is an additional character. The idea of just these, this happy 70s and 80s music. The awesome mix. And I'm trying to avoid. I'm saying I love this, and if you haven't seen it, guys, you should go see it. Don't support a Patreon that's like, don't even send me money. Send that money. Go to the movie theater and watch that in 3D. is what I'm saying. I'd rather have you spend money on that. This is what I realize now with every single recommendation now that I am. You've only got so much money. I'd rather have you spend your money on somebody else than me. That is such an odd thing for me to say. That's yeah, I seriously dug Guardians of the Galaxy. Yeah, I think. Oh, and I also last Thursday, and this is why I didn't do a stream last Thursday night, was I went to see Riff Tracks live Godzilla '98, the 1998 Matthew Broderick, Roland Emmerich film Godzilla in theaters, and loved that. That was a great time out. I went to see the Fiasco, and that was another one where it's like, oh my gosh, here you can see like everything, the soundtrack that got paid, paid to get in. It's so, so much of the music is so datiness, a lot of the music was generic, and but all the product placement is so dated because it's like, oh, Josta energy drink, which doesn't exist anymore. There's Blockbuster video signs, which doesn't exist anymore. There's swatches. Nobody uses a watch anymore. Everybody has a fucking cell phone. That's all we do. Yet another, it was like it's just another series of reminders. There's so little to actually miss about the 90s. If there's any justification, 2008 to 2016 is going to be and 1990 to 2000, just the complete 90s, and these are going to be years that nobody really looks back on with nostalgia. Because just the last few years, we've just seen just about everybody just become a whiny, a whingy, a whinge, just a-hole, and the 90s were just a bad decade of... I'll tell you this much, this is how bad the 90s were. The genre of music I was into most was country. And not to say that there's anything wrong with that, because I still am a country music fan. rarely listen to it anymore now, but there's some people like Brad Paisley and some other acts that I do like to listen to some of their songs. But it was just that was because every other genre of music started to truly suck. Rap went downhill, rock went downhill. Everything was becoming overblown and melodramatic, and then this was when we first saw the first real wave of goth of, and what it represented was like, you know, kids with no problems searching through their couch cushions for something to be depressed about. And nowadays that's just become worse because, you know, those people have had kids, and maybe not, but it's just, we've now got a generation where it was everybody's the hug box. You know, now it's this decade is going to be, this decade is going to end up becoming defined by, I think, words like hug box and trigger warning. And how just everybody became a complete wimp. And I know how horrible bullying is. I was bullied. I was in fights as a kid, as you know, on the schoolyard. But you know, I just see like the geeks. You know, I see like modern geek kids, you know, complaining about their lives and everything, and trying to at least. And all I can think of is like, oh my gosh, I am going to side with all your schoolyard bullies if this is what you sound like now. It's like, I thought you were made of sterner stuff, Transformers fan. Every anti-bullying movement now, I'm like, no, these kids need to be bullied. It's toughen them up a little. We've got to weed out the weak and toughen up them the ones who can last. Otherwise, you will have people just literally just flying off the handle online and suing each other out of existence because they were because everybody now has such a hair trigger and can't let anything slide at all. And thanks to the internet, nothing is. And this is one of the things I've been pointing out for years on Are You the Cancer That's Killing Your Fandom panels. Are You the Cancer is that they're on the internet. There's no 1 through 10. Everything is either a 0 or an 11. The reaction to everything is just emergency mode. There's no DEFCON 5. Everything is... And that means just everybody's going to overreact until you completely burn out people by being the boy who cried wolf and... Oh, man. Jeez. Yeah, I saw Judge Dredd and I liked that. I'll some more minutes of this too myself. Yeah. /con, the one thing that we're all still trying to explain and justify. That's going to be a big portion, I think, of... oh shit, really? How the hell? Livestream. Shit, how the hell did it... okay, my... okay, so the Fur Affinity version of the link worked. Well, this is very annoying. I'll just have to re-upload that and do his channel for them in the future. Let me set him down on the ground. Christ, how many years have we been doing this? I've been doing this over a decade, haven't I? Nearly a decade. This is depressing. Let's do... and also on the most recent page, things I might as well point out also are things like the speed lines on the latest page are actually hand-drawn ones too, so I wasn't even going on the digital program for that. Those just me with a pen at work. And part of this is also because now that I'm doing the 11x17s more, these are pages that I can much more readily get rid of for, I don't know, 20 bucks. I don't know how much they should sell for eventually, but I think also I have some people that, since we have some people on the Indiegogo who paid to be in the strip, we sending out those original pages to those people too, to say, hey, in fact, I still need to get them. I still need to get one of those hard 11x17 protectors, so I can mail one to Chris Overstreet, so he can mail it to the guy whoever did that thing for us, to bought his way into that page. The Hot Flips, that's the name of the brand. I've got a bunch of 9x12s and a few 10x14s even for larger sheets. And then I got a bunch of stuff I got abandoned board. One of these days I'm going to have to spend like I'm going to lose a couple of days, and I'll probably mention this, and who knows, maybe even make video. Since I've got that stupid little tablet camcorder, just to say, hey, this is something I'm doing. For Palladium Books is getting boxes or getting artwork that I've done for them bagged and boarded, matted and boarded, and put it into little poly bags to save them, and then then I sell them like that or ship them out. Some of the things I just ship out free when they do their holiday surprise gift bags. And if somebody says I'd like some original art or print, instead of prints or original art, I'm like, okay, yeah, boom. And we had some people who are Palladium Books fans last year actually saying, yeah, I'd like some Ben Rodriguez stuff. And so they ended up getting a bunch of some of the blasters that I had drawn for Northern Gun Book 1. Because they were just small pieces that I'm like, oh, well, I can't really do much of anything with this. But that is the time on the clock says midnight, so I should probably kick off with this. I'll be finishing up. Hopefully, I'll finish this page up before next Wednesday, and then probably do a scanning session if I've got the page ready, and then I'll do probably if I can shift off from this, then I'll shift onto, of course, the next page, which will be the adults only version of this page, and that'll be a Picardo stream. Cool. That's what's, yeah, I've got so many things like that. But okay, good night, guys. Here's where we stopped streaming, and I stopped sniffling. Maybe I should figure out how to upload these things to YouTube.